What's going on, world? This is the Pay Me No Mind show, rocking with your host, Wood. Trying to get into a bunch of boxing topics this week until I can get to the weekend and get into my next show. But I just wanted to get another Pay Me No Mind out there. I got my special guest on with me. Actually happens to also be my youngest brother, B Wood, the other Wood. This is your host, Wood. Really quickly,
you're tuned in to a one-take
podcast. That's right, One Take Podcast. Actually, some big things going on this week for the One Take Podcast family. 2 days ago, I believe I got a text message that One Take Podcast is now available for download on iTunes. That's a pretty big move for the team. Also want to send a special shout out to our partners, goingfor2.com. Check those guys out for all of your fantasy football needs. All right, just had a quick break that you won't know about, but I'm in here with my younger brother, B Wood. You can find him on Twitter at WoodSense, right? CENTS.
Yes. Yep.
You can also find me at E_pluribus_Wood. Once again, this is the Pay Me No Mind show. To reiterate that,
you are listening to with show host Wood.
so we're gonna get into a couple of boxing topics, but also just to touch on some current items in the world of sports. So, like I said again, a big shout out on the accomplishment of getting listed on iTunes and the podcast for iTunes. You can find the One Take Podcast Nation there. Also, check us out at onetakepodcastnation.com. Like I said, salute to my brothers, B Meeks out of Milwaukee, B Dav, or just Dav out of Detroit. Good looking out, fellas. So really quickly, man, starting out with these opening topics. What's your thoughts on the widespread criticism of Roger Goodell in the NFL? Obviously, Le'Veon Bell's suspension, I believe, was knocked from 3 games down to 2 this week. Kind of under the radar. We did have a female, the NFL's first female coach was assigned to the Arizona Cardinals, Jen Welter, I believe, not to be confused with Instagram's Jen Selter, with her planking and various poses. But also, like I kind of predicted, on the heels of the Welter announcement, I knew within 24 to 48 hours that the Brady decision was coming. Roger Goodell opted to stand firm on his 4-game suspension of Brady for the Deflategate that occurred during the 2015 AFC Championship game versus the Indianapolis Colts. So in that situation, Roger Goodell opted to handle the appeal. He also handed down the initial suspension of Brady. So I'm just listening to sports talk radio on a day-to-day basis, man, and everybody is so critical of Roger Goodell, and I'm just like, I understand we expect the guy, based on what he makes, over $40 million a year. I understand us expecting him to be perfect. And I guess the source of some of the criticism is that he's constantly handing down these suspensions that often get knocked down, from 4 games to 2 games, or from 6 games to 4 games. Now the criticism is Brady is essentially serving the same suspension for Deflategate as Greg Hardy is from the Cowboys for his situation. Also heard a very good caller on, it may have been Stephen A. It may have been the Adam Shine show, but he made a great point that we're actually getting ready to go into this election season with Hillary Clinton catching this flack for scrubbing a server for her personal emails while she was defense secretary. And here's Brady. Now, these are 2 different worlds, obviously, but Brady is sitting here catching all this flack for some PSIs on some footballs. What's your thoughts on, just like I said, the criticism of Goodell, man?
I kind of tend to agree with some of the criticism. I feel like when I look at the suspensions from the last 2 seasons, nobody has had a 4 or more game suspension that wasn't a result of a actual PED abuse or
substance abuse.
Yes, or some sort of
DUI,
off the field legal issue, getting arrested for abuse, domestic violence, DUIs. So in my opinion, I thought that it was a pretty harsh sentence, and I tend to agree
for
with
Brady.
Yes, I tend to agree with the criticism that Goodell's been getting. It seems like he's really had a hard time, in my opinion, kind of positioning himself with so many people getting appeals and winning and so many different things that they say he's done wrong. And like you said, some PSIs, and then it's the whole cell phone thing, and you didn't know if he said it, or did they find out that the guy said that he had enough information to where he felt like he did know more than I don't know. I haven't really stayed totally caught up on it, but it seemed like it really wasn't as severe of an issue to me. And then the overall game, I still look at the game and I think, did those PSIs factor into the outcome of that game?
Not being a factor in the second half of the game, because that's when they
switched the balls. Exactly.
Reset. I get all that. I'm just saying that the guy's primary job is to sell football. So I guess I'm just not that critical of the guy in terms of, the Brady suspension, but I think the Brady suspension is a function probably or in part because of the history of Spygate,
right?
Some of the other instances incidents that have happened in New England, and it's being considered as this culture of cheating. So I think. And I'm going to say this from the beginning when I was on my previous podcast. I really believe, and this, it is startling that Brady is trying to say all together that he had nothing to do with this. And maybe he didn't. Maybe you can say it long enough to where people believe it. The NFL does not have subpoena power when they do these investigations. So it's not like he had to turn over his cell phone. But it's just... who else would be better for the NFL? That's what I guess I'm saying. Just like people that sit up and criticize the president, who better would you put in there? And do you think this is just a job that anybody could do? And lastly, I feel like for the suspensions getting knocked down, I feel like that's built into the situation to get some of these higher profile players back onto the field in time. But I will admit that at this point in time, I feel like the whole 4 games gets reduced to 2 games, 6 games gets reduced to 4. All right, let's just come out from the very beginning and let's just say 2 games or 4 games,
right.
And with a caveat in there that I could have gave you the 6, I'm giving you the 4. Don't bother with the appeal. Let's go.
Right.
So I don't know, man. I don't feel like. I don't feel like he's doing that bad of a job. For me, as long as he stays away from the 18 games, and I don't know what's going to happen with the European team, but I think as long as we stay away from them 2 things, I'm not going to be too critical of him. That's it for me on that one. Moving along, we'll get into a quick bit of entertainment that was. I'm going to make it tie into the boxing that we're getting ready to get into. This week, I know you've kind of went your way with hip-hop. You're 6 years younger than me. I was big into... I've been a long time hip-hop fan. It's been my main thing. But this week, it came out... Well, beef erupted between Meek Mill and Toronto's Drake. Drake being one of the biggest dogs in the hip hop game for the everyday common listeners, I guess. I'll be honest with you, I never bought a Drake CD. I hear him on the radio. I think he does his thing. But Meek Mill came out and said after their collaboration on his new project that Drake does not write his own rhymes. I don't know how familiar you are with this, but he came out on Twitter and said that Drake does not write his own rhymes. Drake has a feature on Meek Mill's album that was released in the last week and a half or so, and he said Drake didn't even write his rhymes for that particular song. I think it's Rico, R-I-C-O. Meek Mill went on a big rant on Twitter, went on to say that check this cat out named Quentin Miller from Atlanta that's part of a group called the Wedding Crashers. Funkmaster Flex in New York City played some reference tracks featuring Quentin Miller rhyming this 10-band song. And I'm gonna just say right there, hip-hop is not karaoke. And when you hear a dude rapping your song, that just throws things into a frenzy right there of what's going on. But now ghostwriters have happened for a long time. Dre has had lyrics written for him. Puffy obviously said he doesn't write rhymes, he writes checks. I'm just gonna get your position on this, being a listener. I know you're more of an Odyssey fan right now. I think it's somebody you're checking for.
Yeah, that's who I'm on right now is Odyssey. But there's a couple other guys that I really like that are similar to Odyssey. I like Cole.
Right.
But getting into this.
So before you jump into it, Meek Mill at this time has not said anything other than what was said on Twitter. He was supposed to go on Funk Master Flex show last night and talk further on this, or maybe even have a diss track for Drake. Drake in 2 days has released one song called Charged Up, and then today back to back came out, both targeted at Meek Mill, and that's where we are with this thing.
My issue with these guys today, man, is I think that ghostwriting has been happening in hip hop for a long time. The problem that I have with someone like Drake being accused of ghostwriting is there are a lot of people that put Drake at the top of the game.
Exactly.
And it's one thing to say Dr. Dre, it's another thing to say Drake. Right. Drake is supposed to be a lyricist. He's supposed to be one of the best lyricists. So if he's ghostwriting, if someone's ghostwriting for him, in my opinion, it's just it's a blatant violation because of who he is. I mean, like I said, he has all the commercials. He's got all these different accolades where people in the industry have said that they think he's the best MC in the game. And if you're up here ghostwriting, it's funny that he's going back at dude like that, because if it gets exposed, because supposedly, with Nicki dating Meek, I mean, I guess if she spoke and said something about it, it would just set it off. So I don't know.
Well, it seems one thing in Drake's favor is that this Quentin Miller's name has appeared on plenty of songs where he's received collaboration credit. He came out and said that he's been honored to be a collaborator on a lot of projects, or some projects with Drake, and he's just said that in no way, shape, or form is he writing lyrics for Drake. But like I said, when a complete song comes out, which was used as a reference track, and this guy is rhyming exactly in the same cadence and flow that Drake would be using, it makes you wonder what's going on. To your point, all I'm really gonna say on this, and I said it on Facebook, and I tweeted the Sway in the Morning Show, where this was was highly talked, or just a big topic for 2 days. I just feel like the whole Sprite commercial or campaign needs to be suspended. That's putting Drake on the same level as Nas and Rakim.